The Concordium's chamber stretched like a cathedral of stars, a circular expanse of polished alloys and suspended light. Holographic banners of 100 civilizations shimmered above the tiered seats, each representing an empire, a species, a history older than most of humanity could imagine. Delegates moved in silence or whispered in clipped tones, their forms alien and unsettling, some with translucent skin pulsing with internal light, others towering and armored like living fortresses. At the center, a raised dais glimmered, the seat of the High Chancellor, Vaerith of the Zirathai, whose centuries of rule had shaped much of the galactic order. Amid this weight of eons and authority, humanity's flag hung small and new, a thin red and blue stripe that seemed fragile, almost apologetic. Captain Elias Kale watched it, seated at the human delegation's long metallic table. His posture was deceptively casual, shoulders relaxed, but his eyes were sharp, cataloging everything, every whisper, every glance, every subtle gesture of condescension or curiosity. He had walked through fire in his own world, seen oceans of blood and cities reduced to ash. The Concordium's chamber was grand, intimidating, but he had faced worse. A ripple of movement drew attention to the dais. Vaerith rose, draped in flowing robes that reflected a spectrum of colors like liquid light. His voice filled the chamber, smooth, deliberate, with an edge beneath the cadence that made every listener lean in subconsciously. "Delegates of the Concordium," he began, eyes sweeping across the gathered species. "We convene not merely to celebrate peace, but to ensure it endures. Civilizations across the stars have learned, often too late, that war is a stain on order. It is not the mark of strength to fight, but the shadow of weakness to fail to rise above it." A subtle murmur ran through the chamber. Kale's fingers rested lightly on the edge of the table. He felt the currents of judgment swirling around humanity. Vaerith's gaze settled on Earth's representatives, and a faint, almost imperceptible smile curled his lips. "And here," he said, "we welcome the people of Earth. Young, eager, and, it appears, not yet accustomed to the delicate balance of fear and restraint that preserves peace among civilized species." The words were not a greeting. They were an accusation disguised as courtesy. The chamber hushed, alien eyes glinting with judgment. Kale's jaw tightened imperceptibly. His voice did not rise, he did not need it to, but his mind catalogued every word, every inflection. One delegate, a crystalline entity from Hethren, leaned forward. Its facets refracted the light as it spoke in a chime-like voice. "They are children in the ways of the galaxy. Let us not judge too harshly before understanding their nature." Vaerith waved a hand, dismissing the sentiment. "Understanding is not required, delegate. Observation suffices. Humans have survived, yes, but their survival is built on fear. Fear of conflict, fear of the unknown. They obey because they dread consequences." Kale's gaze swept across the dais. Fear. That word. They assumed it defined humanity. They assumed weakness. They assumed everything. He inhaled slowly, letting his calm cloak the tension coiling in his chest. A younger human delegate whispered beside him. "Captain Kale, should we respond?" Kale's eyes did not leave Vaerith. "Not yet," he said, voice quiet but resolute. "Let him underestimate us. Let the galaxy see the chains we wear before they imagine the strength behind them." The chamber seemed to hum, anticipation vibrating like an unseen current. Vaerith continued. "The Concordium must consider carefully the status of all species. Obedience born of fear does not earn trust. Let it be noted that the people of Earth shall undergo review. Their vote, their voice, their sovereignty, all contingent upon proof that fear does not govern them." A ripple of whispers spread. Some species nodded in agreement, others frowned, skeptical. Kale remained seated, a silent sentinel. The words were a challenge, but challenges were nothing new to him. Earth's survival depended not on pleading, but on precision, discipline, and timing. He thought of humanity's past, centuries of survival, the scars left by wars, the cities rebuilt atop the ashes of the old. Humanity feared many things: loss, betrayal, the erosion of hope. But they did not fear war. They endured it, mastered it, survived it. The galaxy had assumed restraint was fear, but Kale knew the truth. Restraint was power, a controlled storm waiting for the right moment. Captain Kale, a voice whispered from beside him again. What if they demand proof? Kale's eyes finally left Vareth to meet his colleague's gaze. Calm, unwavering. Then we will give it. But not yet. Let them assume weakness. Let them believe we tremble. They will learn soon enough what it means to mistake caution for cowardice. The session continued, the chamber filling with a mechanical cadence of argument and observation. Delegates from distant worlds spoke of humanity's technological ingenuity, their swift colonization of star systems, their unexpected adaptability. But for every compliment, Vareth countered with cold logic, painting humans as obedient because of fear rather than choice. Kale listened, silent, absorbing. He noted alliances forming, subtle gestures of respect hidden beneath cautious alien eyes. He catalogued weaknesses, distractions, overconfidence. Every detail was a thread, waiting to be woven into the tapestry he would reveal when the time came. By the session's close, the chamber was thick with tension, a storm gathering behind calm facades. Vareth's gaze lingered on Earth's delegation, unyielding and confident. He believed humanity was contained, predictable, bounded by fear. Kale's gaze met his in quiet defiance, a single thought carried in the calm steel of his eyes. Let them call us fearful. Let them misjudge. They will learn soon enough the truth of humanity, and it will be a storm unlike any they have ever imagined. Outside the chamber, the stars of Arindral Prime glimmered through the vast windows. Humanity's flag hung small against the backdrop of ancient civilizations, yet it was there, steadfast. Elias Kale rose, not with flourish, but with purpose. The council had underestimated them, and underestimation was a dangerous mistake. The first wave had begun. The storm was only gathering. The chamber was alive with murmurs, a low hum of anticipation that hummed through the polished floor like a current. Hundreds of delegates shifted in their seats, eyes flicking toward the human table. Vareth's presence at the dais was magnetic, his flowing robes catching the overhead light in iridescent waves, as if the universe itself flowed through him. He leaned forward, voice precise, controlled, yet laced with unmistakable scorn. The people of Earth, he began, stand before us with the confidence of youth. Yet confidence born of ignorance is fragile. They obey the Concordium because they fear the consequences of defiance. That is not diplomacy. That is survival by trembling. I ask you, delegates, is a species bound by fear worthy of equality? Whispers cascaded around the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, while others shifted uneasily, unsettled by the boldness of the claim. A towering quadruped from the Varan coalition growled low in its throat, an alien sound of skepticism. Kale remained seated, fingers steepled, eyes unwavering. He let Vareth speak, cataloging the nuances, measuring the gaps. The accusation was clear, but so was the opportunity. Fear. They believed they understood it. They thought they could define it. Vareth continued, his voice now sharper, slicing through the hum of debate. The human record is brief, yes, but history is not irrelevant. They emerged from isolation, from petty conflicts, from violent survival. Yet they claim to embrace diplomacy. How can we trust obedience that wears the guise of civility, yet springs from instinctive dread? Kale rose, the weight of the chamber pressing against him, but his posture betrayed nothing. He spoke clearly, without hesitation. You speak of instinct, he said, voice calm but carrying over the chamber. As though instinct were shameful. But instinct is truth. It tells us when to act, when to survive, when to endure. Humanity does not obey because we fear consequences. We endure because we understand them. We choose restraint because we recognize the cost of chaos. A ripple of shock traveled through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward, curious. Others, like Vareth, narrowed their eyes, irritation flickering across his composed expression. Endurance is not strength, Vareth countered, voice slicing like a blade. It is compliance. Silence in the face of threat is not courage. It is fear disguised. You may think yourselves disciplined, But discipline is an illusion if it is born of dread. Kale's gaze did not waver. He let the accusation hang like smoke, then continued. Discipline is born of understanding, not fear. The galaxy mistakes our caution for cowardice because it cannot fathom that a species can fight without surrendering to rage. We do not tremble at war, we master it. We measure it. We survive it. That is our discipline. The chamber shifted again. Delegates whispered in low tones, some astonished, others skeptical. Varitha's expression darkened. His control flickered ever so slightly. You speak of mastery, Varith said, stepping down from the dais with deliberate grace. But mastery without display is invisible. We do not know your limits. We do not know if your mastery is real or a facade to mask weakness. If humans are as capable as you claim, let them demonstrate it. Let them reveal themselves. Kale inhaled slowly, choosing his words like a tactician. If demonstration is required, you will have it. But know this, the measure of a species is not in the thrill of violence. It is in the understanding of when to unleash it. Humanity has fought wars that spanned continents, that tested every fiber of our species. We endured, and we adapted. We paid the cost in lives, in suffering, in the very essence of civilization itself. And yet here we stand, not broken, not diminished, not fearful. That is mastery. A soft, collective gasp traveled through the chamber. Some delegates looked unsettled, even alarmed. A species from the Drellis sector, whose skin shimmered like liquid mercury, leaned close to its neighbor and whispered a translation, its eyes wide. Varitha's voice lowered, a hiss of authority and disbelief. You invoke history, yet history is a record of death. If survival defines you, then what separates you from the barbarism you claim to rise above? Kale's eyes narrowed, but his expression remained composed. Barbarism is action without thought. Humanity's wars were never senseless. Every battle, every conflict bore consequence. We were forced into fire, yes, but we never surrendered to it blindly. You presume to call our restraint fear, yet you do not understand the weight of what we endured. It is not fear. It is control. It is understanding. It is survival honed into something you cannot yet measure. The chamber grew heavy with tension. Delegates shifted uneasily. Varith, for all his centuries of authority, could feel the shift in the currents of perception. He had assumed humans could be reduced to a narrative of fragility. He had assumed fear could define them. Now, the air around Kale seemed charged, a quiet energy that drew attention, compelling the delegates to reconsider. Then, Varith said finally, voice sharp, deliberate, let the council put it to the test. Shall Earth remain a full participant, or shall it be limited to observers until proof is provided that fear does not govern your decisions? A hush fell. The chamber held its breath. Some species exchanged looks, some fidgeted with ceremonial implements, but all eyes eventually returned to Kale. The weight of centuries of misjudgment and assumption pressed against him. The moment had come. Kale's voice carried calm, unwavering, but with an edge that made the chamber tighten in anticipation. You ask for proof, he said. Then it shall be given. But understand this, the proof is not a display of fury, nor a testament to your measure of courage. It is the truth of what humanity has been, what it endures, and what it can endure. You call us fearful. Very well. You will learn what fear is to a species that does not know it, and you will wish you had understood restraint before you tested it. The delegates stirred uneasily. Varitha's composure was strained. For the first time, the Chancellor seemed uncertain. A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber as whispers of curiosity, disbelief, and even apprehension spread. Kale returned to his seat, not triumphant, not boastful, but steady, like a calm before the storm. The council had assumed they controlled the narrative. They believed they could define humanity with words. Kale had only begun to show them the edge of the truth. The session adjourned with a tense silence. Outside the chamber, the light of Arindro Prime reflected off the hull of the Concordium station, glimmering like distant stars. Humanity's flag, small and new, still hung among the banners of ancient empires. Kale walked toward the exit, shoulders straight, gaze steady. The first wave had been cast, and the council had felt the pull of it. The storm was building. And soon, the galaxy would see humanity not as timid children, but as a force tempered by fire and restraint, waiting for the moment to reveal its full truth. The chamber fell silent as Kale stepped forward, the weight of the council's gaze pressing against him. Hundreds of alien eyes, each reflecting centuries of conquest, wisdom, and pride, were fixed on the human envoy. Even Vareth, seated high on the dais, radiated authority and arrogance, yet there was a flicker in his eyes, curiosity edged with caution. The time for words to tiptoe around assumptions was over. Kale inhaled slowly, letting the stillness stretch, commanding attention without force. His voice broke the quiet, calm, deliberate. "You have judged us fragile. You have called us obedient out of fear. You have claimed we trembled before conflict. You are wrong." A soft murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates straightened, attentive. Others shifted, uncomfortable with the directness. Kale did not wait for reactions. He spoke to the chamber as though narrating a history long hidden, a truth that demanded acknowledgement. Humanity's story is not one of fear. It is one of endurance. It is written in fire, in ash, in the countless lives lost to survive what the universe imposed upon us. We have fought wars that spanned continents, that tore cities apart, that left rivers of blood in our wake. Billions perished, yet our species endured. We rebuilt. We adapted. We learned. That is not fear. That is resilience beyond measure. Vareth's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward, a faint hiss escaping him. History is a record of death, Captain Kale. You boast of survival, but survival alone does not make you worthy. The galaxy measures restraint, diplomacy, the wisdom to avoid needless destruction. What separates your endurance from savagery? Kale's expression remained calm, almost serene, though his eyes burned with intensity. Savagery is action without thought. Humanity's wars were not blind fury. Every battle, every sacrifice bore consequence. We understood the cost of conflict better than any species present. We did not fight because we desired chaos. We fought because the universe demanded it, because survival left no alternative, because injustice required a response. And through it all, we endured, stronger, sharper, tempered by fire. That is mastery. The chamber was still, yet it vibrated with tension. Aliens whispered to each other, translating Kale's words, recalculating their assumptions. The narrative of fragile, fearful humans was crumbling under the weight of truth. Vareth's voice, usually unwavering, cracked slightly. "And you think this proves your strength? That survival alone demonstrates you are worthy of equality?" Kale stepped closer, each word deliberate, a scalpel carving doubt into certainty. "You asked for proof. Here it is. You call us fearful. You call us obedient. You mistake restraint for weakness. Let me clarify, we do not fear war. We fear what war forces us to become. Because when humanity fights, we do not stop. We do not yield. And if we are forced to unleash our full strength, your empires, all of them, would not endure the storm. That is the truth you misunderstand. That is the measure of humanity." A sharp intake of breath echoed across the chamber. Some delegates leaned back, their mouths open in disbelief. A few clutched ceremonial instruments, as though they might anchor themselves against the force of Kale's words. Vareth remained seated, rigid, his composure shaken, though his pride refused to allow an acknowledgement of uncertainty. Kale's voice softened slightly, drawing the chamber closer with intimacy despite the vastness of space and species around him. "We do not desire conquest. We do not seek needless destruction. But we will not be defined by your assumptions, and we will not be restrained by your illusions of control. We have endured, we have rebuilt, and we have learned. Our restraint is deliberate. Our silence is measured. Our strength is a storm waiting only for necessity." The chamber was dead silent now. Every eye, every attention focused entirely on Kale. Even those who had doubted humanity's capacity to endure found themselves confronting the unsettling magnitude of the claim. It was not arrogance, it was testimony, delivered without flourish but with undeniable authority. Varitha's hands clenched around the arms of his seat. You threaten the Concordium with your words, he said slowly, voice tight. Do you intend to demonstrate this, Storm? Or is this rhetoric designed to intimidate? Cale shook his head, expression calm, almost reflective. No threat, Chancellor. This is the truth. You asked for proof, and this is it, not a display of violence, but the declaration that humanity cannot be measured by your expectations, assumptions, or fear. If we were to fight without restraint, if we allowed the full force of humanity to be unleashed, the galaxy would see what it has yet to imagine. That is the measure you failed to comprehend. A whisper spread through the chamber, alien tongues blending into a chorus of disbelief. Some delegates shivered. Others straightened with a wary respect, realizing the depth of what had been revealed. Varitha's eyes flicked across the room. For the first time in centuries, he hesitated. The vote he had demanded, the judgment he assumed would be easy, now felt like a dangerous precipice. The chamber itself seemed to lean forward, eager, fearful, uncertain. Cale returned to his seat, shoulders straight, expression unshaken. The council had been tested, assumptions shattered. Humanity's sovereignty hung on the undeniable truth of their nature, not timid, not obedient, but disciplined, enduring, and terrifyingly capable. The Chancellor's voice was low, almost inaudible. The Council shall deliberate. A polite formality, but a concession nonetheless. The delegates did not speak the word coward again. No one dared. Humanity's place had been secured, not by pleading or appeasement, but by revealing the depth of what they were. Outside the chamber, the stars of Irindro Prime glittered cold and distant. Humanity's flag, small yet resolute, reflected faintly on the polished floor. Elias Cale walked toward the exit, cloak trailing lightly behind him. He did not smile. Triumph was unnecessary. The lesson had been delivered. The storm had been glimpsed. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. As the chamber emptied, a whisper reached Cale's ears, carried from an alien delegate. They endure everything. And yet they hold back. Cale's eyes met the flag, steady as the stars beyond. Let them call us fearful. Let them misjudge. When humanity chooses to act without restraint, they will wish they had understood restraint before they tested it. The first wave of recognition had passed. The real reckoning, should it ever come, waited patiently, but the Council had seen enough to know that humanity was no longer a species to underestimate, a truth as chilling as it was undeniable.